What's going on, everyone? I'm Encore. This is Tomorrow Never Comes, and this video is all about 3 crypto trends that have died in 2022. This is strictly what I'm seeing and what I foresee going forward. So I'm going to quickly go through these 3, and some of them I've done and I've actually owned. And let's roll right through. Okay, so the very first one that I'm sure all of you will be thinking about is NFTs. Okay, but I'm gonna dice this up a little bit differently. Okay, I do not think NFTs are dead. I don't think NFT itself is a fad. I think there are many use cases that are being made for NFTs, and we're just scratching the surface. Okay, so it's not NFTs as a whole that has died. What I am saying though is that NFTs is just profile pictures, PFP as they call them, or just standalone art, or sports memorabilia that has no community base around it. It's just kind of like, oh, it looks nice. Okay, and you may be thinking that's all NFT, right? That's what every single NFT is, but that is not true at all. Okay, so I want to go through, and these ones are actually more blue chips than anything. And the reason why I'm showing these is because they have such a great community behind them, and if they can see a significant drop, then you can only imagine how bad the drop is for those that had no community. Now, what's happening, I mean, in every cycle, but this one that I'm intimately aware of, is that a lot of the NFT projects that were starting, the founders either get burnt out or they want to cut bait because it's too much work. And so oftentimes these projects that seemed great at the time and had some momentum behind them, they go dark, and then a new team comes in and you're like, wait, I didn't even know the old team was going. So I just want to quickly go through the price points here. So Azuki here, now these guys actually were from what I know, they were actually found out that they would do these rug pulls. They're like well-known rug pull individuals. So their project took a hit just from that alone. Okay, but I just still wanted to highlight this. The floor price, meaning the very cheapest Azuki you can get in the collection, literally the setting the floor. Okay, so nothing is below this price point. And right now the floor price is 9.95 ETH. Now you might be thinking, that's still quite a hefty price tag. 9.95 ETH. Just under 10, but this floor price was about 2021, several months ago. So it's taken a massive hit, half, right? 50%. So one that I actually have been following for quite some time is something called, maybe you guys can see better now, Hape Prime. Okay, I love this stuff. I love what these guys are doing. I love the community behind them. I love that they're still actively engaged and creating projects still in this market. Okay, so this is not, I don't think this is a worthless project or something that won't have legs going forward. I just want to show that the blue chips, in my opinion, are taking such a significant hit that anything that doesn't have a community or long-term value has no chance to survive. Okay, so this floor price is about 0.52. I do remember when I started looking at the floor price, it was probably around 2 or 3, somewhere in there. Okay, and if I scroll down here, you guys can actually see, last price here was 4.7 ETH. It's selling for 0.66 ETH, and there's even a bigger difference right here. So if I move myself here, so look at the right hand side here where it says 0.8. And that the last time that was sold was actually sold for 8.5 ETH. Massive cut there. Okay, again, 0.8 down here, and last was sold for 8.5 ETH. So some pretty hefty drawdowns. 0.8, this one was sold for 7.8. Okay, so really big dips in just these projects alone. Okay, Bored Ape is one that is very well known. Now this floor price is 75. Now you might be like, my God, 75, that's crazy. And that is pretty high, okay? But when I started looking at this project, the floor price was 125 ETH. That was the floor, the lowest price. All right, and if you look through some of these, like I can't. Yeah, this is crazy. Look at this. Last sale on this one was 769, almost 770 ETH, and selling for 75. I mean, that's crazy. This one was sold for 95 ETH last time, is now selling for just under 80 ETH. Okay, big dip there. Now its cousin, the Bored Ape cousin, is the Mutant Ape. Okay, and the floor price here is 14. When I started looking at this, the floor price was around 25. In between 21 and 25 is where it was. So again, almost half of where it was. And same thing here. Last sale was 25. Now it's 14. We're looking over here. Okay. Down on this side, we're looking at 14.4 is the selling price, but it was last sold at just under 23. And you can go on and on and on about the price points and how they vary from the last sale to now. Okay. But I want to be very clear here that these projects, the Bored Ape, the Mutant Ape, and to some degree the Prime, actually, I think they do have long-term momentum. They do have long-term staying power. They have a very vibrant community, and they're always communicating and doing something different. So I think for the long haul, they will do well. But if they are, the Apples, the Microsofts of NFTs, at least in this art area, then, and they're getting hit this hard, you can only imagine those that are not as fundamentally strong or qualified. So that's trend number one, is that NFTs, just random NFTs that are just good for profile pictures with no community base or very minimal and no long-term vision, that trend is gone. Okay, I do not foresee that coming back in the next bull run. Maybe we'll get a little pop there, but now everyone's going to be more wary about it because there has been more awareness around NFTs, so I think people will be a little more cautious. I definitely will. There's a few of mine that the team is no longer around. All right, so that's trend number one. Trend number two is staking on centralized exchanges. Okay, if you're not familiar with what this is, exchanges like Crypto.com, Kraken, Nexo, which I'll show in the next one, and obviously Celsius. Okay. They're centralized exchanges, meaning there is one entity behind it that controls it. Think of like a Facebook or any corporation now that has a CEO and is running the show for profits, okay, or at least has some agenda from a company standpoint. And you can't really dictate what happens with your assets. Once you put your assets on these platforms, essentially they own it. Okay, you don't own your keys, you don't own your crypto. That's a popular saying. And that's because once you give up that right to have your keys control the asset, that means they hold it, and they can decide to freeze it. They can go bankrupt like Celsius, and bye to your assets, or at the very least, a lengthy headache involved. Okay, but what I mean by staking is that you would actually, put your assets on the platform for a fixed amount of period. And you guys can see in this one here that if I were to put in Bitcoin, $500, and I held it for 3 months, that I would make $120 for the year. Okay, so not a hefty reward at all. And the term limit here, you can make it flexible, which means you can take it out anytime, 1 month or 3 months. And Crypto.com has always been like this. But what they used to have was Bitcoin was around 6%. If you're at a certain tier on their platform and you locked it in for 3 months. I had the bulk of my assets on here at one particular point. I actually had the bulk of my assets on Celsius first. And some of the things that, they did, this is way back before the whole bankruptcy part of it, I didn't like, and so I transferred over to Crypto.com. And I mean, that was a fortunate move for me. And then once everything started to happen, I was like, man, I need to get my assets off of these platforms. So it's a massive learning lesson. Unfortunately, Celsius had to teach us that lesson, at least for those of us who came in, maybe 2019, 2020 and beyond. It was a good lesson. But because of that, all right, all of these platforms started to offer less interest, less APY. And, obviously, It doesn't even matter if they offer 3, 4%, 5%. I'm not going back on these platforms. I'm not giving up my control of my assets to anybody else. That's not happening. At least from this centralized exchange format. Okay. So, and I wanted to show Nexo was another one here. That's another centralized exchange. And it says up to 12% APY. Just depends which tokens you put on. So, you know, like all these centralized exchanges, literally they have a token of their own. And if you buy a bunch of their own, depending on how much you buy, you can go into different tiers. And those tiers give you a different interest, amount of interest. You know, it could be, hey, if you have, you know, threshold A, anything less, you get 4%. If you have our tokens at threshold B, you'll get 7%. Okay, they just kind of work it out that way. Incentivizes you to own their own tokens, just because you're getting interest on a different token like Bitcoin. So what I could do is I could purchase Nexo. You know, I'm just making this up, but threshold was to own 20,000 Nexo tokens. If I own that, then I can get 6% on Bitcoin as opposed to 4%. Okay, this is what they do. But too risky. And you know, anyone who's been in the game for a long time has always said, do not give up your power. Don't give your power to any of these companies where they can freeze your account, they can shut it down, or they can go bankrupt, and they don't have to give you a reason why, and there's no guarantee that you're ever going to recoup your assets. So that trend is gone. Okay, staking on centralized exchanges, to me, that's out the window. All right, number 3 is what everyone wanted to be in terms of an ETH competitor. What would they call themselves? Is an ETH killer. The next ETH killer, right? And in the crypto space, there's these things called layer 1s. That's what Bitcoin is. That's what Ethereum is. And a whole bunch of like Binance, Cardano, Solana. You know, you go down the list of Avalanche, Algorand. There's just a whole bunch, okay, that are considered layer 1s. Okay, so there's Algorand right there. Even Near Protocol itself. Okay, so there's just a bunch of them, and really what it boiled down to was, oh, well, Ethereum's gas fees are too high, the congestion is too much, it's too slow, so we do those things better. Okay, so the ETH killer, the motto was, we do what ETH can't, and we do it much better. Okay, but with the ETH merge going to proof of stake, now the proof of stake model does not make it faster, does not reduce congestion or anything in terms of the first phase that went through. There are further updates that will do that. The ETH merge will make things deflationary, so things will get burnt, like ETH will get burnt. But the merge has laid the foundation for ETH to scale. And with Polygon running on top of it as a layer 2, and that is a very robust community, and they support and prop up ETH as much as possible, and really benefit from anything that happens with ETH will benefit Polygon. And so the point here is that I think there are too many developers that will just gravitate towards ETH. That's where the most activity is. That's where the most name brand is. That's where the most support is in terms of a community base. And if things are being fixed that others would use as, hey, this is what we do, so we're an ETH killer, if those are getting shored up, I don't really foresee any other layer 1 surpassing Ethereum. They may do their own thing, and I definitely think there's room for a multi-chain world. It's not Ethereum or nothing, or Bitcoin or nothing. But I think the whole notion of, well, we're the ETH killer, I definitely think that's out the window. So for me personally, like my bet would be on Ethereum and then Polygon, which would kind of sit on top and or run through it. So that's where my head's at. Those are the 3 trends. I don't see NFTs as just art with no, I wouldn't even say just as art, like just as a profile picture with no community base. That's gone. I see staking on centralized exchanges. That's gone. And I see Ethereum killer, the whole notion around that's gone. So those are the 3. Tell me what you guys think, what trends you guys think have died in crypto in 2022. Like the video if you found value. Obviously subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And I will see you all in the next video.